The question started to be asked quietly about 5 years ago and has since become a much louder conversation. Why is NFL quarterbacking so bad? In today's show, I'm going to tell you why. This is QB Unfiltered, my take, why NFL quarterbacks suck.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you want to play tough and want to hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Okay, why do NFL quarterbacks suck? Well, the reasons are many and varied. In my opinion, there are about 3 or 4 main reasons why, and then there's a whole bunch of subtle underlying reasons that combined, all those things combined, give us what we see in today's NFL, and that is just substandard quarterback play. In this video, I'm going to give you my major reasons why I think quarterback play in the NFL sucks. And again, this is just my opinion, but I know that I'm over the target on this. As always, guys, please like and share out this video. It really helps my channel out. And pass the word along to your buddies if you enjoy my take on quarterback play, the passing game, offenses, offensive coordinators. Pass the word to your buddies and subscribe to the channel, QB Unfiltered. I greatly appreciate the support. Okay, I'm going to start with this. Jason Whitlock last week did a segment, and Whitlock's deal is he's got this black quarterback versus white quarterback deal that he's always talking about. And, I think that that's pretty much a bunch of bullshit. And I'm not going to get into that in today's show, just to say that anybody that knows anything about quarterback play, coaching quarterbacks, is a quarterback coach. Do not give a damn if their quarterback is black, white, or green. Okay, the bottom line is, can the dude play? Can the guy make great decisions? All right. Can he do the things necessary to move the football, score points, and win games? That is it, and that is all. But in that segment, Whitlock put up a chart from 2018 where he listed all the quarterbacks in the NFL that season that averaged over 250 yards passing a game. And I think you'll recognize some of the names that were on this chart. Guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Patrick Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff, Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, some dude named Tom Brady, some old guy named Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield, and Jameis Winston, just to name a few. And then he popped up the same statistical requirement of 250 yards a game passing or more for this season in 2025. And the number of quarterbacks that were able to do that was like 4 or 5 guys. And those are straight up facts. And I think that if he would have gone back further than 2018, those passing numbers would have been higher and would have had just as many QBs on the list. So we have long sailed past the golden age of quarterback play in the NFL, in my opinion. So that chart, those are straight up facts. And like I said, there are obvious and not so obvious reasons for the decline. So in today's show, again, I'm going to cover my obvious and main reasons, and we'll start with this. This is number one with a bullet, guys. It starts and ends with this as far as the quarterbacks go: coaching, or lack of it. It's a changing pattern of coaching quarterbacks. It's what is and what isn't being drilled into these guys' heads, X's and O's stuff in regards to the passing game, and muscle memory stuff in regards to throwing mechanics. Now, I've said this for the last 50 years, and I'll stand by this statement till the end of time. In football, the most important position on any football team at any level, the most crucial position to determine wins and losses, success and non-successful football teams, the most high-profile position on any football team, and the most coveted position in every NFL draft, the quarterback, is the least coached position on any football team. Think about that for a second. And that is 100% true. And I'm talking Pop Warner to high school to college and yes, the NFL. Why is that? In my opinion, you don't have enough practical experience quarterback coaches. You don't have enough quarterback coaches that understand the skill set that needs to be taught both mentally and physically for these guys to be successful. I think the best quarterback coaches are ex-quarterbacks. And you can go back years and years and years. In the college game and the NFL, the best quarterback coaches are the guys that played the position. You know, I've got some taglines in this channel's description where I say the quarterback position is the hardest position to play in all of sports, and it's the most unique position. Well, you got a whole bunch of dudes out there coaching these guys that don't understand it because they've never played it. And unless you've played the position, unless you have full pads on and you're taking a snap behind an offensive line, 11 offensive guys against 11 defensive guys on the other side in full gear that are snarling, spitting snot bubbles, their eyes are spinning, and on the snap of the ball, you drop back to pass, and those guys, those 4 or 5 or 6 guys that are rushing, their sole job is to knock your head off, and you don't know where the hits are coming from. All you can hear are these violent collisions and all this crap going on around you. In the meantime, you've got to feel the rush. You've got to focus downfield on your downfield reads. You've got to be able to manage the pocket. You've got to be able to make those split-second decisions on who you're throwing the football to. And at any point in time, you can get ear-holed, or at least you used to get ear-holed in the NFL, and you can get whacked, you know? So there's not too many positions. There's not too many guys in sports that are asked to perform such a difficult task with the added bonus of actually getting your ass kicked while you're trying to do your job. So yeah, I don't think that there's enough guys with practical experience that are coaching quarterbacks in football nowadays. Then you tie the offensive coordinator in with that, with the quarterback coach. And we're going to talk a little bit about this today, but you got to be in a QB friendly offense. I don't think that there's a lot of those in the NFL anymore. Used to be. That 2018 chart that Whitlock put up, there were a lot of guys running QB friendly systems during that year. It makes a huge difference for quarterbacks. And we'll get into the offensive coordinator scheme part of this later on in the show. So back to the NFL coaching. I've been saying this forever and ever also. I've been saying this forever and ever as well. On any given Sunday, your favorite team, your favorite quarterback, right? What you see in an NFL game is what those quarterbacks came into the league with. I'm talking about their knowledge in the passing game and their mechanics in throwing the ball. In other words, once they get to the NFL, they don't improve in those areas too much. They're not fine-tuned very much. They don't have bad habits that are corrected and changed for the better. So the guys that are playing quarterback for your favorite NFL team, those guys are coming into the league, hopefully being coached up in college. They're at the mercy of playing for a good quarterback coach in college and or working with a real good private quarterback trainer. And I'll speak on those private QB trainers here in a bit as well. Okay, so you get a couple of guys that come into the NFL with a really great base coming out of college upstairs and with their mechanics, but then you have a whole bunch of guys that are drafted based on combine results. They run a 4.5 40, they have a 38-inch vertical, but they can't read defenses to save their ass. Right? They test out really well at the combine, but they are toxic leaders and just bad decision makers on and off the field. And I think that's only going to get worse in the NFL because of the idiotic transfer portal and this new era of college quarterback coaches. Chances are that your NFL team is going to be drafting a quarterback that's not very good when he shows up to play professionally. More on college quarterbacks later on. All right, so why are the NFL quarterback coaches not coaching their guys up? I have a few theories. Number one, the quarterback coming into the NFL, the quarterback that's in the NFL, they know what they're doing. They're professionals. It's their job, and it's their job to know how to play the position. Number two, and this might be the biggest reason why these guys aren't getting coached. Practice time is spent not on mechanics, not on getting rid of bad habits, not on developing great muscle memory in what you do after you take the snap, the drop back, to throw. Most of the practice time is spent on trying to execute one of the 250 plays that's going to be on the call sheet going in for that week's game. And that's on a week-to-week basis because those plays change. Those 250 plays change each week because you got to outsmart defensive coordinators, right? You can't run the same stuff on a weekly basis. You can't get good at running the same stuff over and over and over. So things like teaching the mental stuff, reading coverages, anticipating throws, knowing what grass and spacing looks like, knowing what leverage looks like with receivers against defensive guys. All of those things that go into making a quarterback so much more effective when he throws the ball, those things are being pushed aside so that you can practice all of those plays or try to squeeze in the 1 or 2 reps on each one of those 250 plays that you're going to run each week. And that's a huge problem, guys. That's a huge problem. Number 3, why NFL quarterback coaches aren't coaching their QBs up. It's the result, not the technique. In other words, I don't care what your feet look like, just complete the ball. And then the last one is, I've talked about this earlier, there's just not very many good quarterback coaches in the NFL. Now, I want to say this. This is about Division I QB coaches and NFL QB coaches. Just because you coach quarterbacks in the NFL and just because you're a D1 quarterback coach doesn't mean you're a good quarterback coach. Think about that one. And so at this time, I want to talk about something that was said to me by a guy that I know very well who played in the NFL for 10 years. And this same statement was echoed by another guy that I know really well who played in the league for 7 years. And I was asking the 10-year NFL vet one time, we were talking about receiver play, and I go, why in the world isn't that guy being taught that? They're talking about how to run a certain route, right? And this guy says to me, he goes, Coach, there's no coaching going on in the NFL. It's just guys trying not to get fired. Okay, and I talked about Jon Gruden earlier, and, you know, besides the fact that he irritates the hell out of me with the play calls that he has that would take his quarterbacks about 20 seconds to call the play, because Gruden's one of these guys where he has to tell every individual offensive player what their job is on that play in the play call, which is ridiculous. Take that out of the picture. Jon Gruden's a hell of a coach, and he does a great job with quarterbacks. Now, I saw an interview with him recently. He was talking about the journeyman quarterbacks, or the guys that weren't quote unquote elite QBs that played for him, that lit the NFL up, that won Super Bowls for him, that threw the ball all over the yard. And he said something that, again, I really agree with this. He said, nowadays, I don't think guys truly relish the daily development of the quarterback like they used to. I think he's right on the money with that statement. You know, another thing he said, they were talking about Brett Favre when he went from the Atlanta Falcons to the Green Bay Packers, and Gruden was on that staff with Mike Holmgren, another great quarterback guy, Steve Mariucci, and Andy Reid. Right. And there was a lot of questions as to whether it was a good idea for the Packers to bring Favre in because he was a wild boar and raw. And Holmgren told those 3 other guys, he said, hey, we're going to make Brett Favre good. And that's what great quarterback coaches do. Okay, let's talk about a little storyline that happened last year that just amazed me. And I listened to Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame Kurt Warner. I listened to Sean Salisbury, who played in the NFL for a decade, right? And these guys know the score, obviously, and they were absolutely flabbergasted when this came out, as was I. And it was the situation where Caleb Williams came out last year, 2024, and said he didn't watch film with the quarterback coach. He didn't sit down with their QB coach and watch game film of him playing. He was expected to watch it on his own and coach himself up. That is mind-blowing. Do you realize how bad that is? Nobody does that. Well, I guess some guys in the NFL do that. That's a disaster waiting to happen. If one thing can be said about football players and quarterbacks in particular, they have a pretty high opinion of themselves. And the other thing is, in their mind, I don't think they ever think that they do anything wrong, right? And that's what the quarterback coach is for. And as they say, film don't lie. So you can have a QB that says, I did this, this, and this, or I didn't do that, that, or that. You just flip the film on and sit them down and go, okay, let's check it out. And film with a quarterback coach and a quarterback is one of the greatest teaching tools ever. And they just disregarded that with the Chicago Bears. And for Caleb Williams to sit down and watch film, if he even watched it, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he sat down and self-critiqued and self-coached himself on games that he just played for the Bears. That's crazy. Okay, now before I go any further, not all the coaches, not all the guys in the NFL that are coaching quarterbacks are suspect. There are some good ones, okay? And there have been some really good ones in the past, and they all had the same characteristics. Demanding, great teachers, tough love, high expectations, and no bullshit. Guys like Mike Holmgren, Bill Walsh, Sean Payton, June Jones, Jon Gruden. Now, there's a fine line that you walk with quarterbacks. I've heard coaches talk at clinics before, and they say, you don't ever want to chew your quarterback's ass out in front of his teammates because it gives them, it puts questions in their mind. Hey, is this our guy? I disagree with that. I mean, you don't want to dress him down brutally, right? But if he's not getting shit done right, he needs to hear about it. And where coaches run into trouble is when they let stuff slide because they don't want to criticize him in front of his teammates. I think that's a big mistake. Now, those guys I just mentioned, those guys have almost all retired or they're out of the NFL, and that's not a good thing. Okay, number 2 major reason for NFL quarterbacks sucking. Scheme. Offensive football in 2025 really stinks. It's boring. It's slow. It's stuck in the mud. It's buttoned down. And it's just not very fun to watch. Now, guys, don't get me wrong. I've said this in other shows before. The bottom line in football is to win the damn game. Win the game. But there is definitely something called winning ugly, or as I call it, caveman offensive football. And there have been plenty of teams throughout recent history in the NFL that have won ugly, but had decent quarterback play. In 2025, for the most part, it's ugly offense with ugly quarterback play, and it's unwatchable. Okay, so what's wrong with the scheme? Too much thinking, too many words, too much paranoia, too many really smart coaches on offense that have to constantly try to outsmart defensive coaches. And that's why they have 250 plays on a call sheet that is about this wide, like that, hanging around the neck of the offensive coordinator, and not nearly enough snaps in a game. I mean, come on. You're running 12 to 13 snaps a quarter on offense. That's not going to get it done. This should make sense to you. More snaps, more opportunities for your dudes to make plays. And this is the main reason why offensive execution and QB production and execution stinks on a weekly basis. Okay. They are running plays in games that they only rep 1 or 2 times during the week in practice. That 250 play thing. All right. They're running plays in games that they didn't rep at all in practice. That 250 play thing. Or they're repping plays and wasting time repping plays in practice that they don't call in the game. Now, getting back to the 250 play thing. Okay, this thing has always amazed me, and this is another statement that I will take to the bank. You ask any offensive coordinator in the NFL, if it's 3rd and 5 and he's going to throw the ball, if it's 3rd and 5 and he's getting man coverage and he knows he's going to get man coverage, what route is he going to call? What's his best 3rd and 5 route against man coverage? He'll be able to say it like that. Or, coach, it's 3rd and 5. You know you're going to get zone coverage. What's your best 3rd and 5 zone coverage route? Boom. Right off the top of his head, he knows it. Every offensive coordinator knows it. Why do you need a call sheet with 45 or 50 3rd and 5 pass plays on it? And getting back to Jason Whitlock, you know, that segment that he did, he had Steve Kim on there, who does a great job, and he had TJ Moe on there. And Moe played at Mizzou as a receiver, and he also played in the NFL. And Whitlock talking about the difference between 2018 with 19 or 20 quarterbacks averaging 250 yards a game or more throwing it versus 4 or 5 guys this year. Whitlock said, yeah, I think NFL defenses have caught on to the spread offense. And Moe immediately said, no, they haven't. To which I second that. No, they haven't. It's just offensive coordinators have stopped calling the spread as much and stopped attacking coverages the way that they should. Like I said, button down, slowed down, dull. One of the reasons that in 2018 you had all those quarterbacks, you know, throwing for way more yards is you had a lot more air raid concepts going on back then. And a lot of those guys that were putting up those numbers in the NFL were playing in air raid systems in college. I've said this on other shows a bunch of times. Quarterbacks that play in an air raid or air raid related system where they're spreading it out and throwing and working on throwing in the classroom and on the practice field, those guys are way more advanced when they come into the NFL than any of the other quarterbacks. And we'll talk more about college quarterback play here in a bit. Okay, and with the scheme and the lack of a spread passing game where you're attacking defensive coverages and attacking and using the entire field horizontally and vertically, I think you've got a whole bunch of QBs playing in the NFL right now that don't understand the passing game. They don't read coverages well. And this new era of quarterbacks we've got playing, you know, these dual threat dudes that can run and throw. A lot of these guys are looking at one primary receiver, and if that guy's not there, they put the ball into their arm and they're trying to escape the pocket and make something happen. You know, those guys make some plays doing that, but they also really bog their passing offense down big time. A lot of these quarterbacks don't understand how to attack coverages and read coverages and have anticipation and understand leverage on routes. Okay, and then the final reason why NFL QBs suck is college quarterback coaching and the college system. The absolute biggest problem with college quarterbacks right now is the transfer portal. The transfer portal has seriously put a black mark on QB development at that level. And remember where these college quarterbacks go when they're done with their eligibility in the NCAA. Those are the guys that are drafted, free agents, and those are the guys that show up in camp as your favorite NFL team's quarterback. Okay, so why is the portal a problem? Well, number one, quarterbacks bouncing around from program to program. Ridiculous. Gone are the days. Now, it will happen. It's happening with Arch Manning right now. You know, I did a video on him 2 years ago. I said he's the smartest quarterback in college football because he's going to do it right. Right? He went into Texas. He shirted his first year. He backed up his second year. This year he started. Not only is he going to come back and play next year for Texas, but I've said, and I believe this, he'll stay for 2 more years at Texas, go through his entire eligibility, get coached up, get more experience, and be ready to go then into the NFL. But you got these guys that are bouncing around from team to team, which means they're bouncing around from QB coach to QB coach and offensive coordinator to offensive coordinator. They're running new systems every season. They're being coached by a different guy. And so, you know, when these quarterbacks sign out of high school, they're selecting colleges. All right, I'm going to stay with the Division I. They're selecting a D1 program. If a quarterback's smart, he's picking a D1 school that runs a scheme that fits his skills, but also has a great quarterback coach to coach him up. Well, this transfer portal now has made it to where QBs are no longer chasing the great scheme and QB coach. They're chasing money. And so remember I said, just because you're a D1 QB coach doesn't mean you're a good QB coach. So you've got these guys that are going to these different places for cash, and they could be stepping into a program where they have substandard coaching going on there at the QB position. That happens all over the place. And that seriously kills quarterback development when that happens. Okay, this one's a big one with the portal. It eliminates demanding, tough love, high expectation quarterback coaching with the QBs. And this is the reason why. We have made these guys so soft and so easy to go somewhere else and play that if they're criticized, critiqued, they get their feelings hurt, they jump in the transfer portal and they're gone. So what does that do to college quarterback coaches? They stop being demanding. They get a guy there on campus and they're almost afraid to coach him up, right? I've said before, you got these guys now, it looks like they're rolling the ball out on the field and saying, go do your thing, guys. We're not going to do anything to upset you and make you jump in the portal, right? That's bad. And so we're developing soft quarterbacks at the college level, and those guys are showing up in the NFL. We're also developing non-competitive quarterbacks. Okay, so I talked about Arch Manning a little bit ago. He went in to Texas knowing Quinn Ewers was going to be there and be there for 2 years while he was there. Manning went in and shirted his first year and learned. Then he backed up his second year behind Ewers, played behind him, and learned. You know how many quarterbacks would be in that situation and stay in that situation nowadays? Not very many. Non-competitive. So you've got quarterbacks that if they think they're going to sit for 2 years, like Tom Brady did, like Joe Montana did, like Steve Young did, remember those guys? If they think they're going to sit for 2 years, they're out and they're going somewhere else to play. Non-competitive attitudes and soft. Okay, and then the schemes that they're running in college. I mean, I can do a whole show on this. The statistics that come off of a average Saturday during this 2025 year, last year, 2024, embarrassing numbers statistically. You know, I'm pulling up running stats of games and it's 5 minutes to go in the game and one of the teams has 5 first downs, right? 5 first downs, and they've run 40 snaps, and their quarterback's throwing the ball 11 times. Now, that's the other thing. They have shortened the game. They put the radio receivers in the quarterback's helmets, which means they're huddling up. They're now running offensive series and plays at a snail's pace like the NFL. So you're getting 45, 50, 52 snaps in a game. Not nearly enough. And of those limited snaps, quarterbacks just aren't throwing the ball, you know? And if you're throwing the football 15 times a game, 18 times a game, you think you're emphasizing everything that a QB needs to learn the passing game mentally and mechanically in position meetings and practice drills? No, that work's not getting done. So these guys show up in the NFL and they're ill-equipped to play the position. Then you add in this new age thing, with QBs in college where there's no read progressions going on. Very rarely do you see a quarterback do a full field read progression where he's going through his play side. That's not there, and he snaps eyes and goes to his backside. Very rarely do you see that? It happens, but very rarely. So you got these quarterbacks with one read, okay? Or you do have a full field read, but you got these QBs that refuse to do it. And so the first receiver's not there. They put the ball into their arm, and now they're looking for some way to escape the pocket and get out and make something happen. Think Caleb Williams when he played for Oklahoma and USC. He did that all the time. Okay, and then the last little thing I want to throw in here is private QB trainers. I call this the Patrick Mahomes syndrome, and it has really hurt quarterbacks across the landscape. You have got private QB trainers, you've got Division I quarterback coaches, and I'll bet you got NFL quarterback coaches that are doing drills with their quarterbacks, working on throwing it like Mahomes. You know the thing he does where he runs to the sideline with his hips and shoulders facing the sideline on a dead sprint and throws the ball back across his body, and throws an absolute strike and dime to a dude with the worst mechanics in the world. And Patrick Mahomes can do that because he's freaky that way. But you've got quarterback coaches trying to teach their quarterbacks to do that stuff or drop down needlessly and throw the ball sidearm for no reason other than to throw it like Mahomes. That's just bullshit, guys. And what should be done with these quarterbacks is teach them the great basic throwing mechanics and rep it. That's muscle memory. And believe me, when a quarterback gets into a situation where he's got to improvise because the situation calls for it, he'll figure out how to do it. But you got these quarterback coaches that are muscle memorying their QBs into teaching them shitty technique because Mahomes does it. That's crazy. If you're listening to me out there and you're a young quarterback or you're the dad or parent of a young quarterback, be very careful about private QB trainers. Do your research. There's a lot of guys out there doing damage to quarterbacks because they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so not only quarterback's the least coached position on the football field, but the NFL still hasn't figured out how to evaluate and draft quarterbacks, which is an amazing deal to me. And that's always been a problem with the NFL, and that problem's now magnified because the college quarterbacks going to the combine or are in the draft aren't as good physically or mentally as they should be coming into the league. Okay, so this is just the way that I see it with the major problems as to why NFL quarterbacks suck. There are a lot more smaller issues that add to this problem, and I haven't even touched on what these dudes do with toxic leadership skills or just bad behavior in the locker room and off the football facility. I'm talking about NFL quarterbacks. I haven't even touched on that stuff because that's a show for another day. Okay, guys, so let me know what you think in the comments. Did I get it right or did I get it wrong? This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.